Luis Suarez! Incredible! Magical! Genius! It's 5. What a rout to Tottenham. What a performance from Liverpool.
It's Liverpool 4, Everton 0. Have you ever seen anything like this in the Premier League?
Really does lift Liverpool hopes that this could be their year. Liverpool lengthen their lead in the title race. What celebrations here. They have just cleared a massive hurdle.
This is when the Kop went again and dared to dream in the 2013-14 season, the most heartbreaking campaign, where Liverpool went so achingly close to ending 24 years of hurt without a league title. Fenway Sports Group had sunk their claws into Liverpool, and despite their best efforts, they hadn't made great strides on the pitch, even though they had swooped in and rescued the club from the threat of administration after the previous American owners took Liverpool into a financial tailspin. And that's a story for another time. The story here, though, begins in the summer of 2012 with the recruitment of Brendan Rodgers and a pathway to a keen eye on an organic revolution at the Kop, instead of leaning on big names and favourites from the past. Instantly, players like 17-year-old Raheem Sterling were given more of a fair crack at life in the first team. The average age was consistently whittled down to under 25, first off in a Europa League qualifier against Hearts. And the Reds couldn't have made a worse start in the league, getting done 3-0 at the Hawthorns. It wouldn't be until September 29th until first Brendan Rodgers' Liverpool Premier League win is acquired, and it is thanks to the ever charitable Norwich City who run in fear of Luis Suarez, who nets 3 and assists 1 of Liverpool's 5. Admittedly, Liverpool had played 3 of the top 4 in both Manchester clubs and Arsenal in a horrendous act by the fixture list. Now their aim of joining the top 4 was already at an outside shot despite a 2-month, 8-match unbeaten run that had relied too heavily on draws. By February 2013, Liverpool had only the league left thanks to an uncharacteristic error from Jamie Carragher in his 150th and final European game, still the most by an English player. Prior to that away goals defeat to 2008 champions Zenit St Petersburg, Liverpool had long surrendered their spots in the domestic cup competitions. Oldham Athletic embarrassingly dumped the Reds out of the 4th round of the FA Cup, whilst Rodgers' former club Swansea City dispatched of him at the same stage on the way to lifting the League Cup. Only when Liverpool and Swansea met in the 3rd time that year did Rodgers finally get one over his former club, as the Reds clicked into something resembling a good gear in a 5-0 victory. Daniel Sturridge had signed for the club and his goals had helped Liverpool over the line somewhat. One loss from the final 12 in the league as FA Cup winners Wigan shipped 4, a handy Europa League outfit in Newcastle were pumped by 6, and Champions League contenders Spurs were beaten 3-2. In and amongst, though, the inconsistencies still plagued the team as needless draws to West Ham, Reading and at home in the Anfield derby ended the club's chances at qualifying for Europe. The most important of the final draws came on April the 21st, 2-2 against Chelsea, which would have ramifications well into the subsequent season for Liverpool. In a match between 3rd and 7th between two clubs long since diminished since those incredible European nights of the noughties, not much was riding on a late season league clash. Then Luis Suarez got bored and sunk his gnashers into Branislav Ivanovic's shoulder. Banned for 10 matches, he wouldn't be back until the League Cup 3rd round in September 2013. Liverpool finished 7th as questions continued to swirl around the Kop about whether Brendan Rodgers was the right man. 7th though, which would prove a blessing in disguise. The Cups were won by outsiders Swansea City and Wigan Athletic, leaving Liverpool 11 points off the one and only Europa League position. Had Chelsea won the League Cup and Manchester City won the FA Cup as they were tipped to do, Liverpool would have found themselves schlepping away to Malmo in August. But they could struggle to name themselves as the 5th best team in England. Arsenal under Arsene Wenger were crushingly sensible and consistent in their top 4 position. Tottenham Hotspur were still a little wet behind the ears but were exciting enough, and both they and, demoralisingly, Everton had finished ahead of Liverpool in each of the past 2 seasons. Chelsea had long overtaken the Reds. Manchester City, thanks to their Premier League title and an infinite well of money, had overtaken Liverpool too, and Manchester United had just waltzed to a 20th English League title, opening the wound up further. But the summer of 2013 was a radical overhaul for them. Jose Mourinho returned to Stamford Bridge, Manuel Pellegrini was parachuted in at the Etihad, and most importantly of all, the tyrannical reign of Sir Alex Ferguson was over at Old Trafford, and in his place, David Moyes. So there was a little window open for Liverpool to sneak through. The Premier League had definitively gone into a new realm, and in the shake-up there was certainly a place for the Reds. Arsenal was just one of the few cathedrals of elite-level English football that hadn't changed over the summer, but the question was, just what were they smoking down at the Emirates? That was a question very literally posed by owner John W. Henry after Arsenal tabled a bid of £40 million plus another pound, with rumours swirling that Liverpool had to accept offers in excess of £40 million owing to a clause in Luis Suarez's contract. Suarez had been undeniably, alongside Steven Gerrard, Liverpool's best and favourite player since signing in 2011, and doing a little bit better at succeeding Fernando Torres than Andy Carroll did. But Suarez's head was swayed, and it was Gerrard who pulled him back from the cliff edge of torching his reputation on Merseyside. Gerrard knew that Suarez was about to have the season of his life in the Premier League, and if he really did want to leave, why leave for fucking Arsenal? Leave at the top of your game and for a club like Barcelona or Real Madrid. So Suarez was coaxed back, and we wouldn't hear or see from him for another 2 months. It overshadowed the rest of the business Liverpool did in the summer transfer window because, let's be real, it wasn't all that exciting. Luis Alberto, Iago Aspas, Thiago Ilori would fill the squad out and would probably rarely play. Kolo Touré on a free from City was probably past it. Meanwhile, Simon Mignolet was a good shot-stopper but improving at the level that Liverpool wanted to get to, and Mamadou Sakho was a young unknown in from PSG on deadline day, which represented the club's biggest single outlay at £15 million. In the meantime, football resumed and naturally Anfield optimism returned with it. When the league kicked off on August 17th, they hadn't played in the Champions League for 1,347 days. The aim was to put an end to that. Liverpool hadn't won their opening day fixture since 2008 and hadn't won on the opening day in front of the Kop since 2001, not since a Michael Owen double against a Paulo Di Canio-led West Ham. This time it was Stoke City, a team that Liverpool had beaten just twice in 10 league outings since the Potters returned to the top flight in 2008. Simon Mignolet saved a penalty and Daniel Sturridge also helped brighten that record up with the only goal in a 1-0 win, before doing the same a week later at Villa Park. Just as the Kop whispered Louis who, the big one came around. Manchester United pitched up at Anfield. Three games, 3 wins, 3 1-0s, 3 Sturridge winners, and Liverpool headed into the first international break in a cushy position, top of the league, and Suarez hadn't even been unleashed yet. Then came the wobble that deep down many at Anfield predicted. Swansea got something out of Brendan Rodgers yet again in a match bizarrely governed by John Joe Shelvey of all people, before Southampton turned up at Anfield and defeated the Reds yet again. Things would get better when Suarez returned, they said, but his rusty first match back was an emotional third round of the League Cup at Old Trafford, which also ended in defeat. Still, it was the league that really mattered, and Liverpool returned to form, sinking each of Sunderland, Crystal Palace, West Brom and Fulham in a run of 4 wins from 6 games, a run of form that marched the Reds back into the title conversation again, a run of form though that was tinged with one crucial defeat. To end November, Liverpool were incredibly fortunate to scrape a point out of another nerve-shredding Goodison Park Merseyside derby. Everton had retooled in the summer, bringing FA Cup winner Roberto Martinez in as David Moyes' replacement. What had been a rough and tumble, scabby Everton side that could battle a team like Liverpool in hostile environments had now turned into one that could be described as Liverpool's equals.
Superb start for the Reds. Skirtle can't get it away, and it's turned in by Kevin Mirallas. Suarez has curled it around and curled it in. Pulled back for Lukaku. He stands on the move. Lukaku is first in line. Unbelievable. And it's flicked in. Liverpool are level.
Only reinforcing that point was the low ebb of the season thus far. A demoralising 3-1 loss at Hull City of all places. Then with Christmas trees going up all around the city, Liverpool showed some festive cheer on the pitch, beginning with Norwich City, aka Luis Suarez's favourite club.
Magical! Genius! He scores against Norwich City again! It's spectacular again! It's stunning!
The large wins continued at home to West Ham before Liverpool's biggest test in a while, pre-Christmas back in North London, and they'd have to go there without the injured Steven Gerrard and Daniel Sturridge. Had Liverpool improved enough since their last visit, a shoddy defeat at Arsenal? Could they cope with the loss of two key names?
Luis Suarez still going brilliant. Lloris denied and Suarez follows up. Lloris gets ahead to it. Henderson scores. Suarez from Henderson's back heel. It's in by Flanagan. Here's Suarez. He's not going to miss that. It's 4. It's going to be a bigger margin. Sterling, it's 5.
Emphatically, yes, as Raheem Sterling put himself forward in a dazzling display. Also, Luis Suarez's brace meant he had scored more than Tottenham in the league, 17-15, and he hadn't shown up until September the 29th. Cardiff were taught a similar lesson 6 days later. Liverpool were for real. A routine win, but one that put Liverpool top of the tree for Christmas, a far cry from their position of 8th and 18 points off the pace of 12 months prior. In fact, Liverpool hadn't led English football at this stage since 2008, hadn't even been in the top 5 at Christmas since then. A position that Liverpool had only ever been in at this time in the calendar twice previously in Premier League history. And whilst we all know what happened to Liverpool in the 1996-97 and 2008-2009 seasons, the Kop was hoping for third time lucky in what was quickly becoming a solid title bid. They were long past the days of Andy Carroll, Jay Spearing and Charlie Adams stinking up the joint. This was a fresh Liverpool team, filled with youthful exuberance and experience in key places to get over the line. What better test than a Christmas doubleheader, both away against two key title rivals.
City threatened during it, and Navas has found Negredo here. Alvaro Negredo! It's in! City snatched the lead in first half stoppage time. Aspilicueta's done well. Oscar wasn't asking for a penalty. We've had a good view of it. Mignolet can't take it out. It's knocked in by Samuel Eto'o.
And with that, consider a pin popped in the Liverpool title party balloon. From top of the Christmas tree to strewn in 5th with the rest of the discarded and unloved presents behind even Everton, and now 6 points off the pace set by Arsenal. Liverpool needed a shot in the arm. The FA Cup would provide that with a couple of tune-up matches against EFL sides and a little slice of revenge for Oldham Athletic in the 3rd round. So too for Hull City, who comfortably fell in an archetypal 2-0 win of champions, a goal either side of the break. Then came the fixture everyone in the Premier League dreaded, Stoke City away. It didn't matter that they had changed their manager from Tony Pulis to Mark Hughes. Everyone feared them and their infamous blustering 90 minutes at the Britannia. This Liverpool team though was special, and they were able to do special things like being the first away side to score 5 at the Britannia in the Premier League. Kicked off with a helpful Ryan Shawcross own goal, the machine kept whirring. Suarez 2, a Gerrard penalty as Sturridge returned from injury at the end to tie things in a neat little bow. 5-3 it was, not incredible in the backline, but with an attack like Liverpool's, who needed a defence? 6 days later they had to show fight to come from 2 behind at home to an Aston Villa side led by Christian Benteke, who continued to be a thorn in the Reds' side. It was the first time Liverpool had so much as dropped points at Anfield since September, just in time for the Merseyside derby to rock up at the ground 10 days later.
Room in front of him. That space is attacked, and attacked quite brilliantly by Steven Gerrard. And Daniel Sturridge is through here. Sturridge beats Howard. Toure. Flag down. Sturridge had a look. Howard's a long way out. Sturridge is going to beat him and keeps on running. Suarez versus Howard. No contest. Just like the game as a whole.
The ignition was officially on. If anyone doubted Steven Gerrard, the performance here shook that from them. Daniel Sturridge put the game to bed before the half-time break and really should have gotten himself a hat-trick, but never mind. West Brom next was supposed to offer up a chance at another 3 points in what was quickly becoming a rich vein of form to kick off 2014. Then Victor and Ichibe capitalised on a lapsed defence to get an undeserved point. Then a game of absolute paramount importance came next. Arsenal and Anfield with the gap to the Gunners now 7 points. Liverpool in 4th with both Manchester City and Chelsea wedged between the pair. The Reds simply had to win to stay in the race. Giving up a 10-point gap with just 13 to play would have eliminated the Reds from the equation. There would be a downward spiral for one club. That began at Anfield on February the 8th, 2014. And it wouldn't be Liverpool.
Have you ever seen anything like this in the Premier League? It's the most destructive opening 20 minutes that any side has ever come up with. Sturridge for 4. Sterling's got it. 5-0.
4 up against the league leaders inside of 20 minutes. That portion of football ranks alongside anything that Liverpool had achieved previously in front of the Kop. Name a more destructive Liverpool performance. Nottingham Forest in '88 might do it, Real Madrid in 2009 maybe. Either way, the Reds were back in the title race, the gap now down to 6 after Chelsea's win at home to Newcastle. The Arsenal match felt seismic. If Liverpool could do that to Arsenal, they could do it to anybody. Just ignore the FA Cup exit a week later to that same Arsenal down at the Emirates. Then to end the month, they felt it necessary to showcase another side to themselves, a tribute handed out to only champions and the elite, grit and the ability to win when not playing at your best. Liverpool travelled to Craven Cottage, not their happiest of hunting grounds, and captain Steven Gerrard dug the club out of a hole with a last-minute penalty in a 3-2 win. 11 days later, a similar result as Jordan Henderson bagged the Reds a late winner at home to Swansea in a 4-3 victory. Henderson, an enormous pillar of just how Liverpool had improved, a reliable midfielder in a system that absolutely needed one. His 2 goals at home to Swansea were just as important as all of the incessant energy both he and the whole team were now providing on a weekly basis. An energy that eventually laid waste to Southampton the following week. And with Old Trafford on the horizon again, Liverpool were confident they could close the gap further to pole position in the Premier League. They'd only beaten United 4 times in the Premier League era at Old Trafford, but all those were when Sir Alex Ferguson stalked the opposition bench. Now, opposing Liverpool was a true footballing genius by the name of David Moyes.
Gerrard, ice cool as ever. Well, he got it pitch perfect in the first half, did Steven Gerrard. And Gerrard does it again. He evades De Gea's dive. Suarez scores! That's the victory! Signed, sealed and delivered!
This was a team entering its final form. Brendan Rodgers had finally settled on a system that suited all of his best players. They'd tried a 3-4-1-2 when Suarez returned from his ban and it didn't really work. They transitioned into a 4-4-2, a flat midfield with Gerrard running everywhere and Henderson either right or central, depending on Lucas Leiva's availability, and whilst it gave Liverpool firepower, the midfield was a bit of a mess. With the continued integration of Raheem Sterling into a frontline seeping with goal-scoring ability in Daniel Sturridge, Luis Suarez started to trust his teammates a lot more and, consequently, bagged incessantly. And we've not even mentioned Felipe Coutinho yet, who was the tactical unicorn all season. Played from the left, he was now drifting more centrally than ever in what was now quickly being described as a diamond. Now Steven Gerrard sat, dictated and everyone else did the running for him. They'd now won the last 5 games, scratched that 6 games after slapping Cardiff City 6-3 in the Welsh capital, and had gone from a potential 10 points behind the pack to just a point behind Chelsea after Sunderland also fell. To end March, Tottenham came to Anfield, an underrated result in what was quickly becoming a magical season.
Here's Ben Johnson well forward. The ball couldn't stop Suarez. Dawson desperately trying to get back. Time for the party tricks again with Coutinho. Yes! Tries it in low. Goal!
Liverpool had officially gone top. They led Chelsea by 2 points with 6 matches to play, and although Manchester City were only 4 points back with 2 games in hand, their turn to get ruined in front of the Kop was fast approaching. In other words, fate was in Liverpool's hands again for the first time since Christmas. They were going for the jugular in what looked more like a suicidal 4-2-4 formation, but it was clearly working. And after 2 Steven Gerrard penalties won the day at Upton Park a week later, Liverpool would be going into the crucial home match with Manchester City on a balmy 9-match winning run, still with that 4-point hold over their upcoming opponents. Anfield didn't need any further emotion dripped onto the occasion, but their last home match before the 25th anniversary of Hillsborough provided more. All that was left was a momentous 90 minutes in front of the Kop to play out.
Holds off, unleashes a lovely ball for Raheem Sterling. Can he finish it? He can! That's brilliant! He takes the next corner. Skirtle! Fernandinho, back for Milner again. Chance for Manchester City, and a goal. David Silva. Still, deflecting it. It's 2-2. Company. Coutinho! Liverpool lead again!
Now everybody believed Liverpool. 7 points back, City had to believe them. Chelsea still desperately clutching onto that 2-point deficit against the harsh barrage of Liverpool goals. 93 of them in 34 league matches up to this point believed. Liverpool were going to win the league, only reaffirmed when the next victim was lined up. Norwich City. And I shouldn't even need to tell you the outcome. Of course, Norwich rolled over, no matter how much people told you that Liverpool would miss Jordan Henderson after his red card against Manchester City. And after City burned through one of their games in hand, only getting a point out of Sunderland, and Chelsea went down to the Black Cats as well, Liverpool could really drive Jose Mourinho out of the title race next. The Kop raised a toast to Sunderland. For the beach ball goal, all was forgiven. Chelsea were next, and a title foe was due to be wiped out of the race. Even more delicious that it would be Jose Mourinho the victim. And, in the immortal words of Steven Gerrard,
this weekend in particular. Oh, and Gerrard slipped, and Denver Barr's in here. Out comes Mignolet, but Barr. It's Willian who can walk it in and wrap it up for Jose Mourinho.
Desolation, pure desolation. Now even Chelsea believe they could win the league. 2 points back with 2 matches to play. That little fantasy ended for good when they couldn't even score past Norwich at Stamford Bridge. That was nearly 24 hours removed from Liverpool's biggest fears being played at Goodison Park. Their closest geographical rivals had dropped a bollock against their closest competitive rivals. 3-2 winners, Manchester City led the league by 9 goals. Both Liverpool and City had scored 96, but the Reds had shipped 46 as opposed to City's 37. All those needless concessions in victories, 3 at Stoke, 3 at Cardiff, 3 at Swansea, 2 at Fulham and even 2 at Norwich, all coming home to roost. Now Liverpool had to tot up the goals against newly promoted Crystal Palace, a team they had once beaten 9-0. Only a repeat or better would take Liverpool back to the top of the league now.
Gerrard's corner, and it's headed in. We shoot again here, deflection. Sterling for Suarez, 3. Delaney deflected it in. Gale in the middle, Murray in the middle. Here's Gale. And here's Gale who can get it. 3-3 from 3-0 down, 2 of them to Dwight Gale. An amazing night at Selhurst Park.
A 1-point lead at the top going into the final week. Liverpool fans would have bitten all your limbs off and ripped your organs out for that scenario the prior August. Now it was the slow, dull pain of inevitable heartache. Aston Villa couldn't cure it, shipping 4 goals without response in City's final game in hand, which meant that 12th place West Ham needed to go to the Etihad and win for Liverpool to stand any chance. Of course they wouldn't win, and 24 years continued. The end to the incessant torment showed no signs of slowing. Liverpool had gone close before, that this was closer and worse than ever. All the emotion of the 25th anniversary of Hillsborough, the club's most legendary player in Steven Gerrard combining with perhaps the world's informed player in Luis Suarez, and a mix of the young and energetic. Still, it wasn't enough. Just when would it be? Any chance Liverpool had at an immediate riposte in the league or a challenge in the Champions League was snuffed out in Natal in Brazil on June 24th, 2014. That was the day Luis Suarez bit another player, this time Giorgio Chiellini of Italy. His nation wouldn't be long in departing after Suarez 4 days later. And before the Jules Rimet Trophy was lifted by its new owner, Liverpool were removed from their best player thanks to a fee of £75 million and Barcelona. Any player is replaceable, but when you remove the most potent goalscorer on planet Earth for a triumvirate of an over-the-hill Ricky Lambert, an unpredictable Mario Balotelli and a young Divock Origi, it was clear Liverpool weren't coming back anytime soon. Liverpool went for the smart and sensible bids, cherry-picking the best talent in Adam Lallana and Dejan Lovren from a club ahead of the curve in Southampton, before adding Emre Can, Lazar Markovic and Alberto Moreno. It could be argued that Liverpool in the 2013-14 season weren't a club built for numerous fronts, both at home and in Europe. So, with a lesser squad and 15 more matches, the club regressed in the league by 4 positions and 22 points, only just about scraping a return to the Europa League. Nonsensical decisions such as leaving Steven Gerrard, Jordan Henderson and Raheem Sterling all on the bench in the Bernabeu whilst fielding Joe Allen, Lazar Markovic and Fabio Borini instead put them out of the Champions League. In Suarez, Liverpool lost 31 goals, but they were 37 worse off, but a staggering 1.31 goals behind the pace they set the prior season. Combined with an improvement of just 0.07 goals conceded per game in the defensive side, Liverpool were doomed. Not even the Cups could quench the thirst for success, and because it's Liverpool they had to go close. Even when they pushed the eventual league winners Chelsea into second leg extra time in a League Cup semi-final, they lost. And 3 months later the Reds were pushed over the edge when the worst Aston Villa side in 25 years eliminated them from the same stage of the FA Cup at Wembley. Making things worse was a turgid denouement left for Steven Gerrard. Firstly, he played his final competitive match at Anfield in a sloppy defeat to Crystal Palace, which ended slim hopes of a Liverpool return to the Champions League. Then, unforgivably, they slumped to a mind-melting 6-1 loss at Stoke in what will forever be known as Steven Gerrard's last match for Liverpool Football Club. Liverpool didn't take long to bite the bullet on October 4th, 2015 after a limp point in the Goodison Park Merseyside derby.
Some big breaking news from the Premier League breaking right now. Brendan Rodgers has left Liverpool. Brendan Rodgers is no longer the Liverpool manager.
4 days later, in would come a man remembered infinitely more fondly, Jurgen Klopp. They say it's always darkest before the dawn, and Klopp was undoubtedly that new dawn at Anfield, but that phrase betrays the balmy 3 years in which Brendan Rodgers and Liverpool were intertwined. When he was hired in the summer of 2012, Liverpool were finally in possession of a stable and sensible ownership, and for the first time since the mid-2000s, the club had an owner and a manager in complete synchronicity. This wasn't a win-now strategy, but a development that bubbled under the surface. The 2013-14 season will be remembered for the high-octane victories and incessant attacking and energetic football that Brendan Rodgers' team played. More forgotten is the digging deep for 3 points at places like Craven Cottage and Upton Park, where previous Liverpool teams would have come unstuck. Overlooked is the sheer knack of the Reds getting in front via a set piece which allowed them to become more fluid and rarely attack their opponents. Sure, the football was chaotic, it was flawed and wouldn't be marked with any kind of material success, but it produced excitement for the first time in years on the Kop, some brilliant moments to boot, and an incredible batch of legendary players. It will forever remain a time at Anfield which was loved by the fans, but ultimately a time in which they came close, so close to glory. But to relive more glorious times on the Kop, you've got a selection, 2001 or 2005.